All right, so I met Ryan. Where is he? Hi, I'm here. Not too long ago. And so I was looking up what your title was, because I was like, I didn't know how to introduce you. Because you are a father, a husband, a CEO, COO. You are a software geek working for CDC. And then, so there's a connection. So I was reading an article in Core 77, and it was written by Michael DiTullo, he's a California designer. And he was talking about how, as a response to all of the representations of industrial design you see on social media, he created a hashtag, an Instagram page, and he called it Real Designers Ship. And the whole reason was, I think, he felt like the primary focus of industrial designers is to ship. And so, Ryan, I'd like to add to your titles, industrial designer, because real designers ship. And that's what you're doing. So,
thank you.
Ryan, it's all yours.
That's very kind, guys. Thank you guys for putting all this together, and for the wonderful food, and for the booze. And thank you to everybody here who showed up. I mean, like, we could be doing nothing right now, and doing nothing is actually pretty great sometimes. So, you know, like, the fact that all of you are here and not watching Netflix or anything is really special. I appreciate you showing up. So let's just dive right into it. Let me see. Sorry, this isn't very ergonomic. All right. So you're not stuck in traffic, you are traffic. I love this quote. And to kind of zoom out for a minute, let's talk about our city, right? We have the heat, the hills, the topography, and the traffic. The average Atlantan spends 260 hours a year sitting in traffic. Humans are not designed to sit behind the wheel. So let's talk about my story a little bit. I bought a house here back in 2012. I'm here in Kirkwood, 4 miles due south of Emory, where I took my job. And it was consistently taking me over an hour to get to work. That's ridiculous. It's 4 miles. I could almost walk that fast. But by the time I fought traffic, then found a parking spot in a parking deck and fought for that parking spot, and then hopped on a shuttle and got to my desk, it was taking an hour each way. That's a lot of time. So I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. Now, I grew up on 2 wheels. I raced BMX, I raced motorcycles. You know, I love being on 2 wheels. It's just a free, liberating feeling. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pull the road bike out of the shed, and I'm gonna try to do like the whole bike life, right? Bike commuter, right? So I hop on, and I cut my commute time down to 20 minutes. Welcome. I cut my commute time. I catch up. So 1 hour by car, 20 minutes by bike. But now I open the door to a whole new set of problems, which is I'm kind of a sweaty guy. And 4 miles is just far enough, and especially just hilly enough, and Atlanta is just hot enough for me to be in a flop sweat. And a sweaty guy in a tie is no bueno, right? So then I thought to myself again, okay, well, what do? Do I show up early and, like, you know, do the commuter showers, or like how is this gonna work? And I was like, again, there's got to be a better way. Now this is in 2013, and electric bikes are kind of just becoming on the scene. There's 3 components to an electric bike. You have a battery, a motor, and a controller. And whether you're talking about a Tesla or a hammer drill or an Edison bike, they all have those 3 components in common. Now, there was a shop in Decatur called Hope Bicycle. They're not in business anymore. But, you know, I started researching, how do I take the hills out of the equation? Oh, electric bikes, that's a cool thing. I love technology and I want to ride it, you know? So I went out to Decatur, I test rode a bike. Within 10 seconds, I was in love, right? I cracked the code. I have a key to my city, right? Like, no longer am I sitting behind the wheel. I can take advantage of bike paths. I can do whatever I want. And I'm not breaking my back riding the bike, right? So traditionally, especially back in 2013, you have those three components, right? Battery, motor, and controller. And you would see them, you would see like a controller mounted here, you have this big rack mounted battery back here, and the result was, often overweight, kind of clunky, unbalanced, but who cared? It fixed my problem. I get back from that test ride only to find out that this bike is $5,000. And I've always been a builder and a tinkerer throughout school. I was that guy, I could fix your router or I could fix your boat, right? Like I love taking things apart, making them better, making them faster, right? So I said, one, I know that I can build something that's less than $5 grand, no brainer. And two, and arguably just as important, I knew that I could build something better looking. So that's what I did, kind of. So circa 2013, Edison 1.0. This is the very first one. And I got a battery from Japan, I got my motor from China, and I imported a bicycle frame from Canada, and I pieced it all together, and it only cost me $1,600. And I was like, yes! I was proud, right? And I rode that thing every day for 2 years, right? Back and forth to Emory. People started to catch on. They're like, Brian, you're not petulant, you're awake, and you seem like you're on time. That's what it is, right? So it was kind of this cool thing, right? And I was always happy to share my story, right? So all of a sudden, I start building bikes for friends, coworkers, colleagues, and it was cool. I was kind of becoming a part of the solution. We were like building this little Emory club of electric bikes. And I'm talking to my wife about it. I got married, right around this time, and she was excited about it, so I started prototyping. And each bike that I built, I got a little bit better. And then I was just selling my experiments on Craigslist. Build a bike, post it on Craigslist, sell it the same day. Well, that was cool. Build a bike, post it on Craigslist, sell it the same day. I was like, well, there's a need for this, right? So fast forward a little bit of time. Now we're in 2015. I'm looking at my iPhone, and I'm like, this is sexy, right? Everything that makes this work is inside of the product itself. Why are there no electric bikes like my iPhone, right? So then I couldn't sleep, so I got up, and it was like a 20-minute napkin drawing where I basically just drew a down tube of a bicycle that was the exact height of an 18650 battery cell, about the size of your index finger, right? This isn't the napkin drawing, but this is a schematic, right? But yeah, so we have 40 of those 18650 battery cells. Then I found a controller that fit basically perfectly in the frame in front of that, right? And I built one, right? And I'm not a welder. One of my best friends, he studied bike building at UBI, so I can't take all the credit, right? But we built one out of steel, and we took this thing like to every festival, the Kirkwood Spring Fling, all these places, and the feedback was phenomenal. They're like, this is beautiful. And I was like, cool, I'm a part of that, right? Let's do a production run of 18 and see what happens. We pre-sold all of them, right? So we built 18 frames, and we're like, oh, this is cool. Let's do a production run of 20. Let's do a run of 50, 60, 102. Now we're producing 102 frames at a time. Can I geek out with you guys? I mean, I feel like engineers, right? Yeah. Let's go a little bit more into the technology, and then we'll talk more about the business. All right, I'm gonna go deep, all right? All right, so our battery packs, like I said, they're 40 18650 battery cells, right? Initially, we had 2 rows of 20 cells like this, down the down tube of the frame. And I was riding my bike down, there's a huge flight of stairs just out this window, and I was thinking, man, if my pack ever comes loose inside the frame, all my solder points are gonna be hitting the inside of my down tube. That's bad, right? That's how you make fire. So then we actually reconfigured the packs to where now there are 5 banks of 8 cells, and all the solder points are in between. I should have given you a drawing. Are you guys glazed over yet? We're still good? Okay. So how these things work, there's 40 cells, and they're putting out 42 volts, 13 amp hours, right? And it's called a 10S4P pack. So there's 10 4.2 volt lithium ion cells that are wired in series, right? And then you have, I see some nods, so you guys don't explain to me better. And then the P is parallel, right? So then there's 4 cells, I should draw a graph. 4 cells, which represents the amp hours or the capacity. So you have the power and the capacity. You multiply those 2 numbers, and that's how you get 500 watt hours or half a kilowatt hour pack. these packs, I'm really proud of them. They're Panasonic PF cells, same exact cells that are used in Teslas. They're pushing us 20 to 30 miles on a single charge. That's at full assist, like riding it like a scooter, right? So I mean, you could effectively double or triple that range depending on how much you want to pedal. Another thing that I'm really, really proud of is our motors. The thing that I really like about them is they have an IP67 waterproof rating. So they work underwater. It's a planetary geared hub motor, and because it's fully sealed, it's self-lubricating. These motors are rated at 30,000 miles without needing any kind of service. That's pretty cool. That's a long time. And if anybody rides one 30,000 miles, I'll give you a new motor and I'm going to write a blog about you. And then last thing, we use a really beefy, it's a 15 amp controller. Basically, we use the down tube of the frame as like this heat sink. So we haven't run into any thermal issues or anything like that. Everything's, you know, hard mounted to the frame, so it's able to dissipate heat, which is cool. You know, like I've ridden this thing like in the dead of summer, and you cannot get this thing to overheat, which is pretty cool. One other thing about the frame, now, like, you know, we put this into CAD, and we've done like the structural analysis and stuff. Pretty early on, I took one of my aluminum frames to a bachelor party. I don't know if I should admit this or not, but there may have been some drinking involved, but basically we had 600 pounds on one frame. We had 3 guys, and I think that's better than any structural analysis, and the thing did really good when we rode it to downtown Kirkwood, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's fast forward. So here we are now. We're in our humble shop, right? This started off as just a selfish need, and then it turned into a hobby where I was selling like just a bike a week off my front porch. I basically turned my house into a bike shop, and when we got pregnant, my wife was like, you either need to give up or you need to get out. Because I'm not bringing my son home to a bike shop. You know, like the formal living room kind of smelled like solder, and then I had taken over 2 bedrooms that were basically parts bins. It was mad. So that's when I was like, you know what, I really need to take this thing seriously. Like, this is becoming something special. You know, it's gotten to the point now where, you know, I get at least, you know, a text or a picture message every single day being like, Brian, I've never gotten to Cross Street Market this fast, even in no traffic. Like, this is a cool thing. And like, we'll be riding like to Pont City Market, and I'll see 4 other Edisons on the road, and I want to cry, because this is my design and it's my dream, and people are using it, and it's fitting into their lives. They're using it to fix a problem. So it's cool. So now we, you know, our family, we have about 550 bikes out on the road, and the feedback is phenomenal. You know, so it's really, really cool. And you know, I'm not a designer or an engineer. I'm a pragmatist, right? And you know, I was just out here to fix a problem, and it's catching on, and I feel really, really special about that. So let's talk about the future. So one thing, the future is bright for Atlanta, right? I mean, we have all this density coming in, right? We have all this money, and we have a lagging infrastructure, which kind of sucks for people that are driving cars. But Reed, before he left office, he signed off on a bill, $1 billion like infrastructure bill that catered specifically towards like light electric vehicles and bicycles and pedestrian infrastructure, which is really, really cool. Now it's over 20 years, so we don't get all that money at once. Who knows if we'll actually live to see all that go to fruition, but it is really, really cool, you know, that the city is prioritizing, you know, alt transit, right? And there's one other thing I wanted to say about that. We have a trajectory, right? I like grass a lot too, right? So I mean, like right now, I think this is a little bit old data, but you know, we have like, I think 130 miles of bike paths and dedicated bike lanes. So I mean, like Atlanta is poised for success. In that bill that Reed was signing off on, his goal that he set forth was, I want to be one of the top 10 bike-friendly cities in the country, which is a really, really tall ask, but it's also, you know, really cool that, you know, we're already kind of starting to think outside of the box being the car, right? We have all this infrastructure of getting people into and out of the city. You know, we have super wide highways and all that kind of stuff, but everybody forgot about the city's inhabitants. Over half of Georgia lives here now, right? Right here in the city. So let's start catering towards us, right? So if you build it, they will come. Look at the East Side Beltline. Can anybody walk on there now? Right? So like the more of this we get in here, you know, the less traffic there's going to be, and the more adoption I think towards all transit we'll have. Also, I want to talk about the cost of ownership of vehicles. If we're really honest with how much we spend, and I'm a car guy. Like I really like BMWs and stuff, but like the actual cost to own a car in this city is the most expensive in the country, which is ridiculous. So, you know, you're paying all this money, people are moving in, you know, within a couple miles of work. Why do we need the car? And that's been a very popular dialogue. People are coming in and saying, Ryan, we just went to CarMax, we liquidated a car, we're going down to a single car family, and we need a bike. So I say, come on, right? And that's really, really cool. And I think part of transportation being practical, it's got to be affordable. For the longest time, we've tried to keep these bikes under $2,000. Now, just recently, I did some upgrades, going up to $2,199. The upgrades are worth it. But my goal was to keep it under $2,000 because it's got to be affordable. This isn't for the guy that's like, does anybody have a Tesla in here? Don't even raise your hand anyway. But like, this isn't like a toy that you're going to park next to your Tesla and maybe sometimes use on the weekend. This is for the guy that has 2 jobs. You know, they live in Kirkwood and they have a 20-year-old car that's becoming increasingly unaffordable to maintain. And all of a sudden, this becomes a much more viable, you know, commuting alternative, right? If you're dropping $2 grand on transportation, you have a lot of money left over, you know, for Uber and Lyft on those rainy days, right? So that's a good thing. But Ryan, what about the families that have like 2 kids? Or like, what about, you know, the guy that's got to go pick up some boxes from Lowe's? I don't know, whatever. Well, I'm very pleased to announce I've been working with Georgia Tech for about a year on this, and this is going to be our new model. Ooh. Wow. It's cool. So this is going to be our new cargo bike, and we're hoping to launch it this fall. And the thing that makes this thing really special is it is super versatile. You can put 2 kids on the back of this thing. These foot rails here, they raise up so that it becomes a truck, basically. You want to go to Lowe's, you want to buy some bushes, put them on the back here, it's fine. You want to go to Kroger and get $400 in groceries? You can do that. You could do that. Put some bags on the back. Ultimate date night? Put the wife on the back. She'll fit. She'll fit. That's 40 inches of rear cargo space there. And that thing's going to have a 750 watt motor, so you'll be able to climb a wall, right? It's not going to be very fast. It'll probably go like 60 miles an hour, but with all that added speed, you know, and weight, you want to be able to stop. So I think 60 miles an hour is good. But I think this is our future. There's this guy he's an engineer and he's a kinetic sculptor, and his name is Theo Jensen. And he said the walls between art and engineering exist only in our mind. And I think that we have built something really, really special, something that has potential to change the way the city gets around. And I'm just so elated to be a part of it. You know, it's changed my life. I never in a million years would have thought that I'd be a business owner or a bicycle company owner or a bike designer, but here I am, and you know, I'm really happy to be here. And if you guys think about this, I just want to leave you with one thought. On a bank holiday, when there's 5% less people on the road, usually trip times are cut in half, right? So if we could just get 5% of Atlanta to buy into all transit, we're really going to make Atlanta a better place to live and love for everybody. Cool? You guys got any questions?